Someone who actually violated a woman to sit in the Supreme Court. This is not tolerable.
I think it would be proper to delay the floor vote.
Yes! Yes!
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Brett Kavanaugh is finally confirmed. I have to say that was one of the most disgraceful showings of politics I've ever seen in my life, but he's in there. Thank God. The story I want to talk about, it looked like it wasn't going to get a lot of coverage until, from Trump's lips to God's ears, Trump was good enough to tweet about the alleged paid protesters there. Chuck Grassley was quick to parrot those condemnations, taking aim at George Soros along the way. And of course, as is routine when you criticize George Soros, massive backlash and claims of anti-Semitism come your way. Though you would think the things he did to his fellow Jews would disqualify him from being the target of anti-Semitism.
My understanding is that you went out with this protector of yours who swore that you were his adopted godson.
Yes, yes.
Went out, in fact, and helped in the confiscation of property from the Jews.
That's right. Yes.
I mean, that sounds like an experience that would send lots of people to the psychiatric couch for many, many years. Was it difficult?
Not at all. Not at all. Maybe as a child you don't see the connection, but it created no problem at all.
But George Soros' history as a Nazi collaborator isn't what we're here to really talk about. We're actually here to talk about how right Grassley and Trump are. Now, everyone probably remembers this first kicked off with Jeff Flake getting confronted and then indeed cucking and calling for a FBI investigation because these two screaming harpies confronted him in an elevator.
I told the story of my sexual assault. I told it because I recognized in Dr. Ford's story that she's telling the truth. What you are doing is allowing someone who actually violated a woman to sit in the Supreme Court.
I didn't tell anyone, and you're telling all women that they don't matter, that they should just stay quiet because if they tell you what happened to them, you're going to ignore them. That's what happened to me, and that's what you're telling all women in America.
Thank you.
Can you not give them an answer,
We have our press available to talk to you guys if you want.
Yeah, and he's such a cuck that he doesn't even tell him to get lost. He's got to have his female aide do it. But it didn't take long for the story to break that he indeed got played. Anna Maria Archila, one of the women who confronted Flake on the elevator, is the co-executive director for the Center for Popular Democracy and the Center for Popular Democracy Action Fund. Now, why is that so significant? Well, it's a direct link to George Soros. The Center for Popular Democracy is heavily funded by George Soros.
Do you think that he's able to hold the pain of this country and repair it? That is the work of justice. The way that justice works is you recognize harm. You take responsibility for it.
I'm sorry. What was that? I'm sorry. What was that about taking responsibility for what you were doing? Owning up to your actions? Maybe if you were taking money and running an organization purely designed to create political unrest and push division, you might be careful about who you condemned, but that's just me. And if you had any doubt, here she is on their website. Yep, sure looks like the same lady to me. Free Beacon previously reported George Soros is one of the largest funders of the CPD. Soros provided the Center for Popular Democracy with $130,000 from the foundation to promote open society, and another $1 million a year later. Soros provided an additional $700,000 from the Open Society Policy Center the next year. Yep, that's quite a lot of money that that's tied to Soros there, going into a company that is directly paying the former protester. But Trump is wrong, and Grassley is an anti-Semite. And here you can see, indeed, the Open Society Foundations is one of the largest funders of the Center for Popular Democracy, which is what's funding these protests. So Soros is attached in multiple places to this nice long string of financial transactions that obscure the actual source. But I'm sure that's just a coincidence. Oh yeah, and there was the story from the earlier confirmation hearings about a man handing out money to the protesters interrupting Kavanaugh's hearing. Well, so it turns out, same guy works for, what's that? Oh, the Center for Popular Democracy. And as we already know, it has a very large financial backing from Mr. George Soros. So again, let's reiterate. George Soros is funding many different organizations that are paying people to confront senators and cause commotion, but it's not happening. And of course, there was that bit of confusion surrounding the intern/fellow who was doxing Republican senators. Apparently, he's also getting paid by an outside institution nobody wants to name. But it's all still just a coincidence. Oh, maybe if there weren't for this stunning admission.
We also saw people who were organized. And that moment with Jeff Flake on the Hill, we talked to one woman who works for Ultraviolet who was paid. She helped steer people in the right ways to be able to confront senators.
So
there were people who were paid by organizations like Ultraviolet to try to harness that energy in a way that would make the viral moments that we ended up seeing.
Okay, people, move along. There's nothing to see here.
God, could you hear that pause before she said paid the first time? She knew she was about to have to sell a load of bullshit that was essentially admitting to everything we already knew, but they had been denying. And it's not really hard to see these connections. All of this money is moving in sums of millions of dollars. All you have to do is look. For instance, George Soros started an entire new nonprofit in an attempt to stop Kavanaugh's nomination. A new political advocacy group that vowed to put $5 million behind an effort to stop Judge Kavanaugh has ties to the liberal financier George Soros. The group, Demand Justice, is organized and financed by a 501c4 called the 1630 Fund, which collected some $22 million in contributions from the Open Society Policy Center. Wow. Interesting how we see that Open Society Center showing up quite often. Oh, and then there was the new PAC that Soros funds to target the midterms. The Win Justice PAC will spend as much as $30 million leading up to the November elections, with Soros providing the sole source of funding. Well, I'm sure none of this amounts to paid protesters being paid by George Soros, or George Soros's money in any way affecting any of what was going on around Brett Kavanaugh or Trump's presidency. I mean, that would be crazy. It's not like this is a pattern of behavior that, say, goes back a year or so, where Soros, through the Center for Popular Democracy, is funding a campaign to target corporations friendly to Trump in an attempt to turn the business world against him. So it's not like we have an established pattern of behavior here either. Well, I mean, there is the stuff Soros has been doing in Hungary, Poland, and the rest of the EU.
But now things are looking up for Poland. Your economy is picking up, and you have personally invited many Poles to come back from their migration abroad and rebuild your economy. But you've discovered that there's a price to pay for European Union membership. If you do not take the migrants, then you cannot have the money. And you have found that when you have outside interference in your country from such as multi-billionaire George Soros, who seeks to interfere in your nation's life, as he does in mine, then EU tells you you cannot oppose him.
It's gotten so bad that the Hungarian government has passed laws to force his Open Society Foundation out of the country. That's how bad it's gotten in Hungary. And we are kidding ourselves if we want to sit here and pretend like these things aren't happening in America as well. You can call Chuck Grassley an anti-Semite for pointing out the political influence of a Nazi collaborator all you want. It's not going to change the fact that he's pouring millions into political operations across the globe to change things. And it doesn't change the fact that there were indeed protesters there who were paid by his foundations to start problems and create divisiveness. So, scream to the top of your lungs, left. Your mask is slipping, and we see for the people who not only want to destroy the foundations of this country, but are willing to do every scummy thing imaginable to get that done. We are the Republic's walls. Come and take it.